Hi, hello, you guys. Welcome. It is a Friday stream. How are you all doing right now? Hello. I see Sad Kitten. You are first in the chat today. Well, hi. It is good to see you. I'm gonna make sure I have both of my chats pulled up. And Rainbow, yes, indeed, it is a Rosie. I also see Angel Wolf and Bullet Shaba. Lime Hottie, hello, and No Will No Way. Hi, Survival Blade, welcome back. And Tiger Man as well, Quack to Penguin. Well, I hope you guys have been having a good day. I am running a little bit late, and today will be a little bit of a shorter stream for me because Friday is date night, and today we're going to a rage room. So you got sent home because you have a tummy ache and you're being a little bitch about it. Aw, well, I'm glad you're able to actually recover at home. Survival Blades, you're almost done? Yeah, you got this. You got this. I am relieved on my end. I was hoping, I was like very much like, please, like had a little itty bitty bit of a sore throat, but it didn't go full blown, so awesome. Rage room, love those. I do love a good rage room. And I thought maybe for today's live stream, we could actually open it up. I was kind of inspired by, I was doing like in a non Q&A over like my Instagram, but Instagram you kind of have to be a little bit more careful about the topics that you cover. So I kind of figured that if you guys would like, we can open up the floor to some questions you might have in regards to some of my content that you seek. So that could cover a wide range of topics. That could be educational stuff about the like side quests. We could talk about some questions about mental health, polyam, E&M stuff, things like that. So if you would like, you are more than welcome. If you've had questions about stuff like you would like to dive into a little deeper, or about makeup and cosplay and things like that, we could definitely do that as well. So you are more than welcome to take this opportunity to ask some questions if you would like. Hi Chip, thank you. Rainbow says doing okay, needing to take care of my insulin pump, but the idea of dealing with that right now is too much. Oh no, insulin pumps suck. I don't blame you for not wanting to deal with that right now. And yes, it is always if you have the chance to throw up at home or outside, you want to be at home for that. Got in trouble on Instagram for me and Bestie discussing there's far worse on Instagram. No, Instagram, it's hit or miss over there. What's the weirdest kink you were asked to be a part of? I would have to say balloon. It was fun though. And of course, like, cause we're gonna be disclaimer, as we talk about this stuff, is gonna be in the context of educational, because that is important. A big part of my platform is destigmatizing this kind of stuff, because as I would know, growing up in a little bit of a cult, like a little emphasis on cult, I know firsthand that keeping things in a bubble, not talking about it, just this is an adult space, and I think it is important to talk about like adult topics, because education is actualization. Education is safety. Yes, balloons. Some people, they will have a, well, I guess for, that wouldn't be a kink, that would be a fetish. And the difference between the two is with a fetish, the fetish thing needs to be there in order for satisfaction, so to speak, to happen. That's typically how it's regarded. Whereas if you're kinky, that you don't necessarily have to have stuff in order to do it. What's your opinion on... Oh, I am a big fan. I'm a big fan. I thoroughly enjoy it. And yes, have you missed some lore? No will, no way. Yes, I have. Well, I've been in the like non-monogamy side of things for a little while now, and I've had a couple play partners out here in Toronto. So, thank you for lurking, Quinn Miss. Right away? Yes. Educational. Educational. And honestly, I am a big fan of the egging with a P, particularly with like guys. It's really awesome to be part of like a guy's experience with that type of stuff. Like I feel honored. I feel honored when like a guy trusts me enough to be part of that process with him. Like that can be that takes guts, like in a day and age where so much is stigmatized in regards for that. um I think it's pretty I think it's pretty awesome. Have you ever tried in either direction? I would have to say no. I would have to say that would probably ruin my whole life. I'm not a fan of that one in particular. I also have not tried on anybody else. Thank you for lurking, Karen X. And what size is preferable? Honestly, that really does. That kind of just depend on the person. And I know this isn't really like what a lot of people like to say is that size doesn't matter, it's how you use it. And I would have to say I would say no. I would say no. I personally do prefer I prefer something substantial. I still don't understand what you mean by balloon. Like a normal balloon? No, a balloon. Literally, a balloon. For some people, they literally have like brain go brrr and body go brrr for balloons being present and involved in the activity. Hi, Chloe. With rope ties, do you prefer to be rigger or bunny? Bunny. Hands down. If I have the choice between I wouldn't even be a rigger. I only do like little like harnesses and rope ties and stuff. I've never suspended anybody. 100% though. I love it. I love that. I love to be bunny. A little bit of lore, but my bestie and I were discussing it. I personally tried it with an ex, but so many girls I've known are shy about it, or so many guys are so scared, don't know why. It's fun. Because it's edge play. There is good reason to be cautious with it. Once again, educational. This is something to be very safe about. Anytime you are doing something that fucks with your airway, that is edge play. That's under edge play there, and it is risky, and you can cause you basically can cause brain damage if you cut the airway too long. You can cause damage because if they can't talk and you're missing signals, then they might get traumatized by accident. Yes. So when it comes to something like choking, you do absolutely need to approach that cautiously. It may be fun, but it is not something to be taken lightly. People have, you literally do have what is called autoerotic asphyxiation for a reason, and that is when you try to do it to yourself alone. And there's a lot of people who have literally died in this activity because nobody was there when the airflow got cut. And also, a lot of people don't know how to do it properly, and that's something I would say, do not squeeze the front. Do not put pressure on this. A lot of people think that's what it is, where like you put pressure here. Do not put pressure directly on the airway, okay? You don't want to be crushing someone's larynx on them. Hi, PK Screams. Yeah, a lot of people think it's crushing the airway. No, it's actually, I would say please do your research and look up how to do it properly. Oh, you were referring to my comment about edging. Okay, gotcha. Yeah, do not squeeze the front. How did you walk into edging? Well, Bayama, look at the title of the stream. That's how we got here. And the reason, okay. Do not try that stuff by yourself, please. It is so much better to find somebody who will be there with you. Yeah. If you want to do breath play, it's a very different kind of play, usually covering the mouth. Oh, Brad Kitty was fine. Looking into starting cosplay. I want to go all out, but it's so expensive. How did you start out, and what's your favorite place to buy from? Honestly, I was just doing like, I wasn't even doing actual cosplays of characters you'd see in fiction and stuff like that, or from TV shows. I was just coming up with characters based on items that I would either be sent off my wish list or I would find at a thrift store. Because when I first started, I had no money, no money whatsoever. And honestly, like, you can literally start with your local thrift store, come up with an original character, and go from there. Either one. Also, you guys, I would say please remember it is still Twitch. Please, like, it is a Q&A, but please remember we still can't make it too explicit, all right? We want to keep it educational, but when you ask personal questions about what I prefer about that stuff, please, like, the line is basically if you're asking me about explicit things that I enjoy, that's probably going to cross guidelines. So those are questions to ask elsewhere. we do have to be mindful. You do Marvels with normal set of makeup? Yeah, I would say that, like, I really don't have an extensive amount of makeup. Hi, William. Hello. We're doing well. Yeah, exactly. Edge play does not equal edging. They're very different things. They're very, very different things. Oh, well, welcome back, Angel Wolf. Yeah. And so, yeah, you can also, like I said, you can ask questions about a variety of different things. Let's see, tips for navigating finding a rigger. I would actually say your best bet for finding a rigger is to attend local kink events. Go to, especially Munches. Munches are designed to be very casual, laid back, safe environments where you can go in, and usually the people who run the events, they are really good to talk to because they'll know everybody, and you can be like, hey, I'm looking to connect with a good rigger. Is there anybody you'd recommend, anybody you can network me to, and who should I avoid? Like, who are you aware of, anybody who is known to not be great to work with? No, Munches in person, actually going to that stuff in person, it's worth it. It can feel very scary, but it's a lot of fun, and you'll just meet a bunch of people. Survival Blade says, one of my exes had a creative way to make sure the pressure was just right. She made sure she had a good grip on her partner. Well, what? That's just one way to do it. Thank you, Angel Wolf. Is thicker or thinner rope better? Depends on what you're doing. And it's not necessarily about thick or thinner rope. It's usually like the material. Tips for navigating the anxiety of going to a munch. Well, if possible, have somebody to go with. Also, contact. You can also, like, reach out, contact the people who are running the event to be like, hey, is it possible to do that sort of thing, like to come out, like, I'm very nervous about this. When I attended my first munch, I showed up. Actually, I think I went with Formative Fox, and we went in. We said we were new, and the directors went around and they introduced us to everybody, and we were able to, like, find a seat, talk to the people around us. Typically a munch, if done right, it's pretty easy to integrate into. Do you have specific criteria when it comes to collabs with other creators, or is it based on vibes with the person? Oh, we absolutely do have criteria for doing collabs with other people. Of course, one of the biggest ones being, are you testing regularly? So everybody that I work with, we test there's a certain, I'm actually due. That's a good reminder. I had, like, a really great testing place out in Edmonton, so I need to find one out here in Toronto. Yes, group meeting. A munch. A munch is a casual kink group to get to know your local community. I feel like those that would be known, people would be ejected. No, they probably wouldn't be present at a munch, but they would be able to be like, hey, this is what their handle is. This is who they are. If you hear about them, see them elsewhere outside of the munch, that's somebody to be there. Do you check people's references? Well, typically within content creators typically work with other content creators. if you value your safety, you do not work with followers. You do not work with random people that end up in your DMs. Yes, I did. I moved to Toronto earlier this summer. Best advice from someone who is also nervous: rip the bandage off. And of course, like, you can take a comfort item if you want, something that helps you with the anxiety, a fidget thing. That's my thing for going into any social situation where I might feel uncomfortable or on edge. I take something with me that helps. Welcome back, Gentle Tap. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, level of agoraphobia. Well, and the thing is, like, realistically, you might be able to connect with somebody online who will come to you if you're agoraphobic. However, you're taking a huge risk there in that you're not meeting them out in public first, and you don't have a group helping you vet. So the struggle bus for agoraphobia is literally you might go without. And I think that's one of the hard parts of agoraphobia is you just miss out. Like the grief of that is that it is very risky to connect with people because our usual safety stuff, which is meet at a munch, talk to your local community, if that's not accessible to you. And that's the problem, is that unfortunately some things aren't accessible, and in that case I would say my advice is limited, and you need to talk to an expert in agoraphobia. Also know your personal boundaries and limits. Any tips for flying for the first time? Don't have liquids in, like, make the security check as smooth as possible. Hope Toronto treats you well. Edmonton is not a city I enjoy living in for reasons. I actually love Toronto. I really do. I am very much enjoying my time here, for sure. Yeah, with the lockdowns, the disability have started to develop a level of agoraphobia. Yeah, in that case, I would say you would want to talk to some. That's not something I'm an expert in, so you would want to seek out. If you're dealing with something like agoraphobia, you're going to want to reach out for support from somebody who is qualified in that area. One of the new characters on stream. I actually have not been doing characters. I have not been doing any specific character sketches. Mostly because I don't want to simplify my content and keep doing the same characters over and over again, because you don't grow that way. Like, you don't learn new makeup skills if you just keep doing the same character over and over. What kind of stuff is there to do in Toronto? All the things. So many things. Like, later tonight I'm going to go to a rage room. More thinking is more anxiety. The makeup and outfit. Yeah, I wouldn't say the makeup and outfit's a character. One or two times I was able to attend a play party. After several munches, they had a wind down space for aftercare for folks who just need to calm down. Yeah, a lot of munches will have a specific space for you to step away into if you need to. Which character was the most time to put together? The goth dom girlfriend. For sure. And how to find a munch. You can find those kinds of events typically through, like, there's that one place that starts with F, Life. And then there's, of course, some of these groups are on Facebook. The Edmonton group, they had a Facebook page. And I would get notifications. You can also sign up, once you find them, sign up for emails and stuff. Yeah, Gotham was fun. Gotham was fun, for sure. Absolutely valid. I'm definitely more anxious about going out since the whole mess. Found my local munch has been really welcoming, not too intimidating, but it's a smaller one. Yeah, well, typically in a city, especially if you're in a city area, there's typically at least 2 groups going on. We make little content in the rage room. Love to see you have a good time. You never know. It might not be a good idea to film while breaking stuff. You might, like, end up doing something to your phone. Some of them might have a Discord. I've typically found that, like, older people run munches and they won't know what the fuck a Discord is. But yes, typically there are local munch groups all around the place. All around the place. Quinky people are everywhere. And Yeah, you just kind of like look up what's in your area, follow it through, start talking to people, and see what's local. But yeah, for those of you who are coming in, I see a bunch more people. What a munch group is? A munch group is kink. That's like intro to your local kink community. They're very casual. There's no play happening. It's not this. It's not the same. It's literally just like the munches I would go to. We'd all meet up at a local restaurant for a couple hours. It's literally just to meet people, vet people, meet your local community, meet people who have specific skill sets you might want to network with, that sort of thing. It's awesome to film some slow-mo clips. We'll see. Hi, Zoth. You're at the eye doctor. Aw, yes, new glasses are important. William says, after I aged out of the young adult kink group here, I didn't find another one to go to for munches, but I have been too broke to go for so long, didn't bother looking. Another one, actual disability, you should go look again. That's a great idea. The local get introduced to fellow kinky groups. Yes, so that is, at least these days, that's what they're calling it. They call the introductory meeting to your local kink group munch. And I know it sounds like brunch, but it can happen at any time of day. Sorry, lost me at people. Well, listen, I'm sorry to break it to you, but if you actually want to have interpersonal play with somebody, that involves peopling. You have any advice on how to do spicy talk? Oh, that was, I had to build myself up to that. I really did, because I initially felt so awkward. I felt so awkward doing it. And I didn't get into it really until I connected with a play partner who really has a thing for like worship. And it was just how much they were into hearing me talk, like verbally worship, that got me into it and like helped me get past how awkward it felt. So it really was, I find it comes out naturally with the right partner. Best way I found to learn to do spicy was just starting and finding people who are already into it. The waitstaff at the restaurant we go to for munches, because all of us were left-leaning, tipped very well. That doesn't surprise me at all. Bayama, please do see a doctor at some point. Checkups are important. Fine, but I'm going to be miserable the whole time. Listen, I doubt the whole time. Yes, it can be very awkward to learn. And I've also found that like it can be hard. Some questions like that can be harder for me to answer because I don't have the same anxiety response that some people describe for some of this stuff. To some degree, I literally just dived right. I just went for it. We have a brain go from Chloe. My besties met someone who was really into water play. He wasn't, but he ended up loving it just because of how happy she was. Right? Like there's sometimes it's literally just their being so into it gets you into it, and it just starts to feel natural. It'll start to feel natural at some point. They won't contact. Have you set up an appointment? I'm pretty sure you have to contact them. Is how a doctor's appointment works, usually. Usually like munchies in the morning. There's no better form of worship than a black mass. Well, munches typically are not that, but Rosie just yelled YOLO. Rosie on her way to the first munch. But even in regards to like certain types of play, oh, you're gonna have to hit them up again. Sometimes that's the case. You literally do have to hit them up again and again until they actually get back to you. The medical system is overwhelmed. It is overwhelmed. Munches usually aren't actually the act of munching. I mean, not munching on other people. You're munching on food. Typically, a munch is food related, not play related, because the whole point of a munch is just to meet people. the dungeon events, like, or specific play events, like typically what you'll have is a munch. Your local kink group will run a variety of events. They'll have their munches, usually at least once a month, that you can catch and actually meet people. Then they'll have like the dungeons. They might have markets. They might have rope classes or other types of play classes. Typically, they'll also run classes on things like consent and headspace, being a healthy dom or sub, that sort of thing. Hi, Luna Pack. Hello, hello. Yeah, no, the munching people consensually would happen at a different event than a munch. It's a whole other thing. Libra Moon says, "Hey Rosie, hope you're doing good. What's your advice for SW burnout?" Honestly, my biggest struggle with SW burnout was I had very high anxiety about taking breaks, which was related to some very specific trauma. As many of you guys know, there was a period in my life where I left an abusive relationship, an abusive situation, and in order to do that, I had to go completely broke, went hungry, didn't have consistent access to food. So a lot of my burnout tended to stem from the inability to take breaks. There was 2.5 years there where I couldn't take a break, and I couldn't even really sleep that well because my brain was like, if we stop, we'll starve. If we stop, we'll starve. We can't stop. We'll starve, we'll starve, we'll starve, we'll starve. And it took about 2.5 years because that shit, let me tell you, starvation anxiety will fuck you up. If you go without consistent access to food long enough, it will alter your brain chemistry. So for me, I had to heal that. I had to heal that brain response before I could get anywhere with burnout. So really, it'll have to come down to like, what is the burnout stemming from, and addressing that. So my burnout was coming from trauma and the inability to stop. Yeah, PTSD is a bitch and a half. Realized part of the issue, our major teaching space is up to like 20 plus stairs with no elevator. Oh no. Yeah, you might want to reach out to them and be like, hey, is there a way for this to be accessible to me? William says, going to my first munch wasn't a huge change leap for me because I was so used to going to a bar for socializing, dancing. Yeah, it can feel very different or very comfortable depending on what you're used to, right? Have to make going to a munch one of the things on my list. I definitely do recommend it. I very much do. I actually found networking wise, there was a lot of value to going to a munch and actually connecting with the people who run them, connecting with the people who run the munch events, run the dungeon events. They know everybody. They have the tea on everything. They're going to be able to point you to all the great resources or all the places you should probably stay away from. Like, they've got all the information. It's really important to get to know you type stuff as not physically schmex focused as possible, because most people want people they're comfortable with before they do anything. Even like the CNC folks still need a clear set of rules, expectations. Good point. Hi, Derigo. Welcome. Hello, bestest mod. Didn't hurt that the goth alt bar I went to back then was filled with all the spicy people anyway. Yeah, you're just like, this Venn diagram is a circle. Did I hear correctly that you're going to a rage room? Yes, I am. I'm going to a rage room tonight with one of my play partners. We're both very due for a session of just like letting it out on something. And rage room is kind of my tradition. I know like some like witchy people, they'll do what's called a cord cutting ceremony. So you light 2 candles, you tie like a string or a rope between them, let the fire burn down, cut the rope, and that's like a symbolic cutting of the connection between the two of you. My version is to go to a rage room, beat the shit out of something, and then I'm over it. Let's see. The people who run those events frequently seem to be very high up in local communities. Yep. It's been a Well, since I've gone to a bunch for any kind of event, only just started getting into my local community by the time the plague arrived, just haven't gotten back in. I actually think, honestly, COVID really trounced a lot of our connection to community, and there's a lot of people who just have not gotten back into it. But I would definitely recommend that. This stream might be your sign to actually reach out and uh, maybe actually start attending some local community things. You might be like, yeah. I also feel like they're a bit clicky, but that might be a me confidence thing. I would actually say cliques are not a bad thing. Uh, and that might be a weird thing to hear, but I think cliques are pretty normal. They're just a group of people who have who have built trust with one another, and it's a trust you don't have with them yet. If you're newer on this scene, like you literally do. The thing is with cliques is to remember that you just literally don't have trust with these people yet. So people are not necessarily going to be fully warming, welcoming, and whatnot. No, you need to talk. You need to spend time talking to them, building connections, things like that, seeing if you actually do vibe together or not. The witchy woman entered the rage room, and there was much wailing and gnashing of teeth. Seeing in the rage room must be a fun time. I absolutely walloped a TV last time I did. I ate the shit out of that TV. Trust is built over time. And honestly, I think for the most part, most people have had their own clique that they were a part of, right? I don't necessarily think they're a bad thing because it isn't realistic to expect that every group of people is just going to automatically vibe and assimilate with every new person who comes in. That's not safe. Cliques exist because so not everybody's safe. Yeah, as long as they aren't a judgmental clique or an unkind, unpleasant group. Yeah, on their own, they're a neutral concept. It's if they're a toxic type of clique, then yeah. Best TVs to break are CRT because they implode. Why would you make your TV? Why would you design your TV to implode? I have questions. And yes, for finding venues can be tough just because there's still a lot of stigma. There's still a lot of stigma around things like kink, and that's honestly that's very unfortunate because like it's normal. It's normal, it's healthy. Group in high school was a variety of different people. Yeah, and that's typically the case. If the glass goes on the inside, less chance of injury were the TV to break. Oh, okay, that's fair enough. And yeah, and in high school it can be bad, but it's also usually I think when I'm hearing that in order to get into a clique, it's time you have to spend time and see if you click. Yeah, exactly. But the thing is, typically people who couldn't find a clique, how do you even pronounce this? Is it clique or clique? Because I see it and I want to say clique, but I have a feeling it's actually pronounced clique. And I just hate that. My brain hates that. And I want to say clique, but I feel it's actually clique. CRT TVs are basically particle accelerators. Like click. It is click. Okay. So a great many people in the kink community are neurospicy with trust, obstacles, and connection to their neurospiciness, which is very fair. So being hesitant to meet new people is actually healthy. Okay, it is click. But like, look at how it's spelled. Look at how it's spelled. I hate that. And the thing is, if we're being honest about cliques in high school, typically the people on the outside of cliques who had a hard time and felt left out and whatnot, let's be honest, that's somebody probably who was neurospicy, who was not getting adequate support for their neurospiciness, and their brains were not able to do the thing with everybody else and just couldn't vibe. And it was felt both ways, because I think That's unfortunate, but like I don't even think cliques in high school are really that bad. I think when you see the outsider of the clique, you see the clique and the outsider of the clique, you're like, well, that spot the tism kid. Spot the one with autism. Please, somebody help that somebody and the problem is like instead of recognizing that the kid on the outside of the clique probably has something like autism and getting them support, there tended to be that social stigma surrounding it. I don't think it's necessarily that the clique is the problem. I think it's that things like autism don't get enough support or recognition. Still remember when my friend flipped me off in the hallway after I sprinted towards her, almost ran into her. That's a very specific story. I was never a joiner. I was the odd person in high school. They called me nomad because I never fit into any clique or group. I played football for 4 years. Only had 2 friends on the team out of 50 guys that I hated with a vengeance. Yeah, and so I'm going to guess you're probably not neurotypical. This honestly, what I'm going to say is that if you were the kid who couldn't fit in with a clique, you were kind of more on the outside of things, I'm going to guess either you grew up in poverty, you were neurospicy, or highly traumatized. And those were ostracizing factors in your life that probably made you feel very shitty about yourself and did not contribute to self-esteem very well when you should have been given support. Bonus of mother-in-law owning our house is that we could put hooks in the roof for rope play. Ooh, woo. Well, those things, how dare you. Do I win a prize if I have all 3? Yeah, and I know this because I was that kid. I'm saying that because it's me. Hi, it's the problem, it's me. So I'm like most likely very neurospicy. I grew up impoverished, grew up with a lot of trauma. Also grew up in like a bit of a culture I had absolutely no fucking idea. So when I actually, if I look, it hurt to not, it felt awful to not be able to integrate it. And it could also feel like the other kids were inherently mean. They weren't, though. They were just being kids, and they were kids who didn't have limiting social factors like I did. What I didn't know when I was a kid is that there were obstacles in my way of social integration that were outside of my control. And yeah, like it hurt at the time, but there are certain factors that will separate you from other kids your age that are out of your control, and you won't understand it at the time. Oh, thank you for dropping in to say hi, Chloe. Oh no, Penguin. Was it the war crimes? Wasn't part of any group, but got along with almost everyone, so ADHD. Definitely had a traumatic childhood, no support from either for any parent or authority figure. Yup. Whoop, there it is. So as a kid, I never wanted to be around people. The fact it changed as I got older is truly surprising. So Angel Wolf, I'm going to ask, if you didn't like being around people, were you growing up in an environment where you couldn't rely on the people around you? And it wasn't really like stable, or possibly your environment was neglectful, and because you couldn't depend on the people around you, it was actually easier just to avoid people altogether. Especially because if you started out not really getting that social support, being around people would just be exhausting because you'd have to spend the whole time being hyper vigilant and trying to figure out what everybody wanted from you. So it's just easier and less exhausting to be on your own, independent. Yeah, got you there. Hi, hello, Phoenix. Hello. Dropped out before any kind of voting happening. So you're just like, fuck the man, bye. Yeah. No, usually when people tell me that they were like, I didn't really like being around people, I'm like, look at the people you were around. Is it that you don't really like people, or were the people in your life kind of fucking shitty? And you haven't gotten to experience secure attachment and safe community and consistent care. Well, that's an interesting experience. I'm caffeine fiend. I'm glad you at least got an apology for it. Can I ask for some insight advice on a dating situation? Yeah, go for it. We're having a little bit of a Q&A right now, so have at her. Rosie, you want to warn people before you eviscerate them with callouts like that? Listen, I'm very self-aware. I can only do this callout because I've had to have this conversation with myself. It's me. Hi. I was the avoidant. It was me. How do I talk to woman? Well, hopefully not that intensely. You were voted most likely to be a mercenary. Voted most likely to be late to my own death. What? No, I went to a private Christian school, and from what I remember, I don't think we had a vote like that on anything. Hmm. I'll have to come back. Oh, that's fine, Belle. But yes, for those who are joining us, we are having a just chatting, but also Q&A. We're talking about a variety of topics, including kink, getting like connecting with your local kink community, safety for certain things, interpersonal safety, all kinds of stuff. So if you've had things from my content that you'd like to dive in a little bit more, you are more than welcome to take this opportunity. Yeah, the most likely to be this. I don't remember that happening. Private Christian school buddies. Yeah. Like, I can talk to them, but have no idea how to ask people out. Well, it kind of depends on the situation you're trying to approach them in. I think we had a few streams back where the question was like, how do I ask out somebody who's at work? And the general consensus is typically work. You're probably going to not want to approach that one. Aw, good job, Rainbow. Good job. Thank you. Thank you for being a very, very, very good girl and taking care of your health. Do you have any experience with fire play that you can give tips for? Not yet. That's one of the ones I have yet to try. And I think the closest I could say that I've approached to that is wax. And once again, educational tips. Please make sure if you're approaching that type of play that you are using the appropriate materials. You need to use skin-safe materials. Yeah, because there's ways to do it more safe. It's still edge play, but when it comes to something like wax, make sure that you are choosing skin-safe material. And it will say you cannot just go to the store and get a candle and drip wax on somebody. You will hurt them. Make sure that you're using appropriate, designed for skin wax. Yes, do not use Yankee candles or store-scented candles. You need to find the stuff that's designed for it. Edge play. Edge play is the type of interpersonal physical play that involves risk. When you do it, there is literal potential risk to your body or your brain. So, yeah, paraffin wax is not okay. With headphones on, drinks water. Oh, thank you for being so good for me and drinking your water. Yep, if anything to do with fire, have a fire extinguisher and bucket of water nearby. Same goes for rope. If you're doing anything related to rope ties, you want to make sure that you have shears, not scissors. You want rope shears on hand at all times, because rope is also edge play. So if you're doing rope ties on somebody, there is risk of nerve damage, even permanent nerve damage. Have shears nearby because you want to be able to do as close to an instant release as possible. Have very sharp rope shears, because scissors, if you just have regular scissors on hand, somebody's like, you've got them bound and it's restricting their blood vessels and their nerves, and they're like, please, 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 things are going numb, please let me out. And you're there with scissors just like, oh my God, it's not going. Shears, please. Yes, exactly. Edge play is why rack came out. Scissors will cut eventually, but you want quick release. You want something that's going to shear it immediately. And it's like, exactly like Quimus is saying, the not fun type of hurting them. So all of this is very important safety stuff. So we've actually covered a few things when it comes to edge play, right? Is make sure that if you're doing something with airplay, restricted airflow, remember it's not actually airflow. It's not your esophagus that you're putting pressure on. Do not crush someone's larynx. You do not put pressure here. This is not where the pressure goes. If you're doing rope play with somebody, vet the person, especially if they're doing full rigging. If they're doing suspension, they better know what the fuck they're doing. And also make sure that at all times you can tell them to let you down immediately, and make sure shears are on hand. And we're talking about wax. Make sure it's skin safe wax. Is natural fiber, nylon, or silk rope best? My personal favorite is actually nylon. At least nylon's not for suspension, but I do like nylon just for sensory things. Yes, angled safety shears that medics use, they're a great choice. Does that mean collars are dangerous? No. And I can give you guys an example, just a sec. All right. So another thing I'm not a fan of are metal cuffs. Hate those. Not a fan. I think those can cause so much bruising and damage, even bleeding. So this, also belts. Okay, if we're talking about general safety, do not use belts for restraint. Okay, all right. Like one of my mutuals from Kink Talk, Wild Heathen, I think it is, he would always say, belts are for smacky smacks, not strappy straps. Smacky smacks. What is on my bed? Elf ears. If you're wondering what those are elf ears. And this is, so not sponsored, but this is from Mr. Pierre Fashion. They're like a kinky business, and you can find them on TikTok. Yes, the spicy friendship bracelet. So these can be turned into, and this is not the way it's supposed to go, but they can be turned into, I forget how this goes specifically, but you kind of get the gist. So it's a bracelet that turns into, right? Now I want you to notice something. This locks. This locks in place. So it's not going to move, and that's why you don't use belts. Okay? Belts are not designed to lock. If you're doing any kind of play like this, you want something that's secure, that stays put, and it doesn't get tighter. So you see all of this? It's not, once I've set it, it's not going to get tighter during play. And that's usually where the nerve damage happens. As somebody struggles, as somebody moves around and reacts, the restraint gets tighter, and then boom, nerve damage. Yes, Mr. Pierre has a really great variety. Yes, figure 8 for cuffs or normal for collar. And so with a collar is fine as long as it locks into place and you haven't put it on too tight. Oh yes, the secret wrist cuff, perfect for daytime or playtime. Yeah. So you want something not necessarily loose, but basically once it's set, it's locked. It's locked in place. So no matter how much you move, it doesn't get tighter and it doesn't start constricting your nerves and blood vessels. Belts can also pinch or put pressure in an inconsistent fashion. The thing about your previous school, it depends how far back it was. I'm not seeing it. Oh, hi, Caffeinated Blacksmith. We're doing pretty good. How are you? I didn't even see it. I can't say that I saw it. So belts maybe also have baggage for trauma babies. No, belts are perfectly fine for doing smacky smacks as long as you don't hit somebody with the buckle. Because yeah, if you're literally just doing this with a belt, that's fine. Just don't use belts. Please never use a belt around your neck, and don't use it for restraints. It's not sexy. Yes, I remember you talking about that, sad kitten too, because that's a personal like. No, honestly, it is not sexy. I cannot emphasize to you how unsexy metal cuffs are, how unsexy using a belt as restraint is, or how unsexy zip ties are. That's not sexy. That's cheap, and it's putting your body at risk. Like there is nothing that kills the mood faster for me than somebody pulling out a pair of metal handcuffs that they like picked up somewhere, because I'm just like, really, really get the real thing. Invest in the real thing. It is sexy when you actually can pull out something that is designed specifically for that purpose. It's comfortable, and it's not as likely to cause damage. Are you just talking about leather or ballistic nylon belts too? I would, yeah, both. Yeah, zip cuffs. I'm not a fan of using zip ties. They're too thin. They're very painful. They can go too tight too quickly. And also, zip ties do literally go right on down. I do not recommend using zip ties for restraint. That that's a bad one. That is a really, really bad one for you. Uh, Safety first, sexy second. And safety is sexy. And it always, whenever I do talk about this safety stuff, and someone will be like, well, me and my man, this is how we've been doing it. And I'm like, stop. Then stop. Because they'll be out here just like, well, this is how we do it. We've been perfectly fine. I don't care if you've been fine to this. Stop. I don't care if you have been doing it up to this point. Don't keep doing it. Now that you know better and you have this information, stop playing with fate. Stop tempting death. Stop tempting the medical gods, okay? Like, what are you doing? Just because you made it this far doesn't mean it won't go super wrong. One of your links is labeled more than the other that they go to the same place. They shouldn't go to the same place. There's two places. One should go to another. Yeah, loosening zip ties is almost impossible. And it's also harder to get them off. Like when it comes to like taking the zip tie off, like I hate. Zip ties are for cable management, not brat management. Buying a pair with partner, I was new to this and being super excited. Yeah, the very first time a guy decided to use cuffs with me, it was the metal ones, and it hurt so bad. It was not sexy. Where it's at with restraints are literally designed for you, specifically tailored to you, custom leather restraints. It hits different. That sex, it's worth it. It is worth it. So you can, like, Mr. Pierre Fashion, Restrained Grace is another great shop. They're queer owned. So yes, please, you guys, it is worth it to invest in the right equipment. I had two different events. So listen, Penguin, that's because of the war crimes. That's sport sheets. So Velcro, the only thing with Velcro I found is I've broken Velcro. Yeah. What about duct and electric tape, provided the person enjoys it? You can use tape. I'm personally not a fan, but I would say tape would be better than something like zip ties. Mm-hmm. Custom leather stuff hits different. Plus, you're supporting a local business. Used a necktie as a makeshift restraint in college, and it came undone. Yeah, you also you're gonna run into issues like that. Like, it is best. It'll help keep you in the scene. It'll help keep you in the moment, and it helps preserve everyone's safety to just get the real deal. Yeah, that's the one I broke, Phoenix. Misunderstood how spicy, less spicy. There's two, and they're like basically the same. It's just two different pages. Um, Tape at least doesn't tighten. Mm-hmm. Yeah, don't use electric tape. I know. I've never used tape myself. I've always been like, that's not hot. That's not. Ew. I very much am a if we're not using the right equipment designed for the act, I'm like, I'm not here for it. I'm not into it. Brain not vibing. Do that. Do it. Like pro. No Pip. Thank you for the resubscription. Thank you. That's why I have leather, because I can't tie a knot worth a damn. Also, yes. Isn't paper a good option for training? Actually, yes. Something fun you can do is you can take a piece of paper, like a strip, take the strip into like a figure eight, have them put their hands in it, and they have to stay there. If they break the paper, the scene ends. So that can be a really, really fun way to play with somebody, do sensory play and stuff on them, is literally be like, don't break the paper. You have to keep that paper intact or else the whole scene stops. So that's a personal favorite. Self-adhesive tensor bandages should work. Easy to cut, stretchy, very restrictive. I have never seen anybody use the self-adhesive tensor bandages, but I guess theoretically. And there is kink tape that you can use. So yeah, that's a few different options, a few different ways you could go for it. But yeah, if you guys have any other further questions, now's your time, now's your opportunity to ask them. So learning some new sub-taming tips. Yeah, so try a paper cuff scene. Because that might work. But yeah, feel free to ask questions if you have questions about polyam and E&M and stuff. Yeah, do not use sports tape. So as someone who's very sensitive to touch, what would you recommend for that spicy wise? Well, it depends on if they're touch averse. Like this is something where they're sensitive to touch, so they want less of it. Or they're very into it. Because yeah, you would need that. You would also need that context. That context as well. Oh, sorry, I'm yawning a little bit because I always yawn when I've got fake eyelashes on. I don't know why. That's a whole struggle bus. In this case, they want touch. Oh, there's so many different things. That's why I always have claws. Like I always get like my nails done. I want my pointy ones back. I couldn't find, well, the first salon I've tried out here in Toronto couldn't do my usual claws, so hopefully we'll get them back. But things like nails, there's light pinwheels, wax is sensory, feathers, ice, things like that. What is the biggest telltale sign that you, meaning any person to themselves, that they might be into E&M or poly? I knew that I was into poly or non-monogamy since I was 17. That's kind of when I figured it out, because around that time is when I was considering things like, what do I want for myself as an adult? Math can also be a good frustration tool. That Fibonacci sequence. God fucking damn it, Jason. Yes, claws are fun. Oh, that makes sense, Tiger Man. And yeah, you kind of just ask them questions. Most people will have a good idea of stuff that feels good for them. Hi, Obliged Ark. So there's many different things. Want to try all the things? I would try all the things. But when I started asking myself whether or not I wanted to be married and have kids, when I asked myself that, I kept hitting this wall of being like, I don't actually want that. I don't want to be a wife and a mom. I don't want to be. I really didn't want to spend the rest of my life with one person. When it came down to it, like, the actual answer that I had internally was, I don't want that. Best parts you can learn at the same time. No, I can't. I don't remember the Fibonacci sequence. Brain went bye-bye. I also have a hard time remembering numbers to begin with. I want to be wifed by like 17 people. Exactly. I don't want to be wifey to one person. I want to be wifey to like a horde. So at least in my experience, it was just something that I innately came to know about myself after I started asking those questions about what is it I want in my life. Yeah, a horde. Aw, thank you, Draconic Shaman. Hi. Hello, hello. Thank you for the resubscription. And yes, we're having a little bit of a Q&A today. And yeah, you can try things, see if people enjoy the feedback on it. I feel like this might also be a little bit of a call out, but if you struggle with having a solid sense of self-esteem, or even just you kind of struggle with knowing yourself very well, then you might have a difficult time realizing if some of this stuff is for you. And you might literally have to figure it out through trial and error and interacting with it. Definitely not kids for me. Pets, sure. Oh no, I was vehemently anti having my own kids for a long time, specifically because I would never want to have kids with the family that I married into and the family that I had. I was like, oh, goddamn, that would be a nightmare. That would be hell. I would have had a miserable time. How to navigate? Oh, that would also be edge play. And I know that would be something to check in with a counselor about. If you have a prior history of something like SH. I know that there are tools. There's a content creator that actually came up with a tool that literally does like basically a safe experience where it's the same feeling of it running against your skin with a cooling effect, which I thought was like a genius idea. And yes, everything that William just dropped right there, for sure. The only thing I would add to that is also remember that sometimes communication isn't the answer. Communication is the answer only if both parties are communicating in good faith. If you're dealing with a certain type of person who doesn't really care about you, they're manipulative, narcissistic-esque, or antisocial, the whole healthy communication thing could actually put you at risk with them. So just be mindful of the people you're communicating with, and if you notice they're not interacting in good faith, then that's a whole other set of problems. The lack of knowing me has been part of the reason I've stayed out of the dating pool for a while, and that might actually be smart. I'm doing well, Obliged Dark. I hope you're doing well too. The acrylics, I'm not sure, and I haven't seen her on my For You page for a while. Um, so I don't remember the name of the creator, but there are actually tools out there that have been designed for people who have a history of SH, so that you can engage with certain things without actually engaging in harm, right? We love effective harm reduction tools. Those are good things. Hmm. So, yeah, honestly, there's a lot of ways to approach things that are a lot more healthy, a lot more adaptive than a simple black and white yes or no, and that is entirely a possibility. So, to some degree, Alexa, stop. Thank you, Noel. No way. uh, why is she like this? Unfortunately, for some people, the struggle bus is going to be, you're not going to know certain things until you figured yourself out. I think similarly to when we were talking about how if you struggle with something like agoraphobia, you're going to be limited. Just realistically, you're you're gonna have a wall. You're not gonna have access to certain things, and that's the whole problem with that type of disorder. Is literally that's the point. Is that you've been cut off. You don't get to have those things until something has been addressed. And when it comes when it comes to certain things like kink or polyamor stuff, you're going to figure it out when you know yourself better. And if you don't know yourself very well, you're not going to have those answers. It's literally going to have to be you stepping out, pushing out of your comfort zone, things like that. Apparently, Alexa wants in on it. What drew you to streaming? Well, I do love gaming. So like there was threefold streaming was uh first and foremost in another income source. I had to branch out. I became a content creator and a streamer to survive. Uh like I was saying earlier in the stream, I had to get out of an abusive relationship, and that's Twitch was one of the things that helped feed me. But also, it was a really great way to connect with my community and just be able to have these conversations. So there were a few benefits to it. We're talking the recovery pen. The recovery pen, yes. um, I knew somebody in high school who literally just wanted to have their like the sensory thing for that, like back scratch, right? Not as like a plaything, but literally like awesome. Back scratches are awesome, and some people they're just like deep back scratch, please. So something like a recovery pen might be it. Um, oh yeah, if you're newer to my community, anybody who's been in my community for a while knows this lore. It's something I'm very open about at this point. Angel Phoenix, that sounds familiar. All right, if you're looking for the type of pen that I'm referring to, the content creator to look up for the recovery pen is Angel Phoenix. Head rubs or Debestis? Yeah, Debestis. You've been here for several years now. We've been here. The way that we've been here for a hot second. We've been here for a while. So Twitch I found is a very like good tool just for community maintenance, checking in, having some fun with gaming, having good conversations like this. Oh, you follow her too. Excellent. Excellent, excellent. No, I've literally haven't seen her content in a few months. Oh, I could see that, Rainbow. I could see that for sure. Any advice for social anxiety? Well, something you might want to look into is um, DBT, because we had cognitive behavioral therapy for a while, but now DBT and working with your body actually giving yourself tools for anxiety so that you can go out, be social, and like you've done the work with your body to negate that response with your brain. The best advice I can give somebody for something like anxiety is invest in yourself by connecting with somebody who's an expert in it and see what tools that they can give you. I actually, so my own investment for myself is I just started therapy I just started with a new therapist actually, and I got to work with her yesterday. Yeah, my therapy appointment was yesterday, and specifically one of the first things we're going to work on is like with my I literally have a jaw disorder because of anxiety, and also I grew up in an environment where there was punishment for speaking up, and girls are not supposed to speak up on things. And of course, I've been through some shit that I've had to stay quiet about because unfortunately abusers, if they actually valued your well-being, they wouldn't abuse you. But when you talk about the abuse, they don't have an empathy response to it. If you actually are to publicly state, this person treated me this way, they're not going to clue in. They're not going to be like, oh fuck, I did that to this person. Like, chances are they already knew, right? Chances are, and in a lot of cases, like, there is an awareness of what they're doing to you. Yeah, this sounds like therapy. Hi, Dracone. And thank you. So, unfortunately, if you have had an abuser in your life, and I've had a few, if I were to directly talk about my experience, then there is a very good chance that what's going to happen in their brain is to be afraid for their reputation. They don't care. They were benefiting from abusing you, whether it be through tearing you down verbally so that they could feel better about themselves, either through financial abuse, like having you over contribute financially or denying you financial security, economically threatening or taking away housing, things like that, using your body for their own gratification. Abusers abuse because they get something out of it, but they don't want to be found out. So unfortunately, if I were to speak directly on some things I've experienced, that person who did that to me is going to be more worried about their reputation, which means that they need to punish me for speaking up. Which is, don't like that. I don't like that for me. So obviously, but when we've been it is healing. It's healthy to actually be able to speak and talk. So it's unfortunately with abuse continues after you've left the person, because there's ramifications or potential punishment for talking about it. And when you can't talk about it, that also hits your body. So with my therapist, that's what we've got to work on, is literally how abuse, negation, and repression of my voice and continued abuse post interaction with that abuser has impacted my body. And so yeah, I would say with something like social anxiety and whatnot, you got to actually work with someone who's an expert in anxiety, and they'll go, because you can logic things all day long, but sometimes you actually need sometimes you actually do need to do somatic work. Yes, the reputation they've projected that contradicts facts, personal experience. Oh, exactly. And unfortunately, with an abuser, they're often not operating in reality. And you'll see it. Because we were talking about earlier, communication is so important. And one of the tools that I had for identifying that I was in an unsafe situation is that I would try to communicate that something they were doing was harming me. For example, especially because I've talked about how when it comes to how my body is treated, that is so important to me. So if I notice that someone's not treating my body respectfully, they're not checking in with me, they don't care that I'm enjoying it too, like they don't put in that effort, and they don't do aftercare of any kind, that's fucked up to me. I won't stand for that. And so if I bring that to a partner and they don't clock into it and they don't take responsibility for it, what I would actually see is, it's very weird. It is very weird. So you bring this up to a partner and you're like, hey, I've noticed that when it comes to physical intimacy, you don't seem to care about me. You really just want to use my body, but I didn't get anything out of it at all. I got nothing. You literally just used my body. And so I would bring this up, and instead of being like, oh, you're right, I should step up. I'm so sorry for treating your body that way. I should step up. Instead, they'd look at me like I was an NPC who'd gone off script. I'll do a posture. And then they would, their eyes would literally shift over, and then it would be like they're mentally going through looking through dialogue options, and then they'd always pick a dialogue option that would deflect away from what was happening, deflect from their responsibility, make it my fault, or they would be like, oh, if you want this to change, here's work that you can do, and maybe I'll give you pleasure if you do this, this, and this. It's like, that's not the correct answer. That was not the correct. That's not correct. Yeah, you can't necessarily logic yourself out of a trauma response. Yeah, speak your truth, but you don't have to go into detail on every public forum. No, you you really don't. There's also means of extending control, contact usage, a few other fun tricks. Yeah, flying monkeys. How did you discover your venom voice? I had strep throat. My primary abuser's literally in a safeguarding group for the community we're both in, but as they're femme presenting and I'm male presenting, that's not likely to be a thing I get to raise successfully. In spite of a screenshot of a message where they admit to it. I mean, if you do have a screenshot of this, you might be able to use that. That's a big problem in some less well-maintained kink groups. An NPC gone off script, somehow that sounds like a mild insult. Well, because an abuser is not operating in reality, they'll take in information from reality, but then apply it to whatever is going on in their brain. And in an abuser's world, the whole point is to exploit you. Exploitation is the basis for abuse. And so however they're exploiting you, because the type of abuse that I've experienced, oftentimes one of the main ones had to do with my body and just having access to my body and using it without having to put in any real work or effort to make sure I enjoyed it too. That's abuse. That's not okay. That's exploitation. So that would be the basis of it. So when I started to be like, this is hurting me a lot, I can't even begin to describe the amount of fucking damage that having your body treated that way will do to you over time. It's fucked up. And that's the thing. Abuse does not have to be punching walls. It's not usually what they show in media about some drunk coming home and being like all up in his wife's face. It's usually something like withdrawing affirmation, not actually treating your body respectfully, making sure you get pleasure too. That can also, neglect is abuse. And so if you pick up on it and you bring it to them, you communicate it to them, and they negate it or make it your fault, that is a huge sign that something's very wrong, and you need to get the ever-loving fuck out. There's no amount of communication that will fix an exploitative connection. They're not going to clock it. You cannot verbally entice empathy out of somebody who's been exploiting you. Manner of speaking in an abuser's perspective, everyone else is an NPC. Mm-hmm. Follow-up question, could you say something in your venom voice? My voice, my throat is still, I'm going to have to say no for this stream, maybe next one. just because I will also have to hop off stream in a few minutes because I'm going to need to get myself ready to go to the rage room tonight. But yes, that is a good point. In an abuser's perspective, everyone else is basically an NPC. So if you notice, generally if you are confused as to whether or not you're being exploited by somebody unsafe, is ask yourself, what do they benefit from? If you've noticed something they're doing is hurting you, critically examine it and ask, what are they getting from it? What benefit could they get from this? Take your own emotion out of it, because to you, your brain's initially going to go, this is hurting me. Of course there's no benefit. There is. Take your ego out of it. Take your ego out of it. Yes, you're being hurt, but take your ego out. What is the benefit? So typically what you're going to find is that there is sexual, emotional, or financial benefit to harming you. Deadass. There is 100% a benefit. And your hurt can also be a benefit, unfortunately. To some people, your hurt pulling you down can be emotionally gratifying. Your hurt can be an emotional gratification to an abuser. That is one of the benefits. So because it can be hard. It can be hard to determine reality. It can be hard to determine if the person you're with is safe. And you actually literally just have to ask the question, am I being exploited? What is the exploitation? How do they react to me pointing out the exploitation? Because one of the pillars of abuse is entitlement. So all of the harm that's happening to you in an unsafe environment, they feel entitled to do. No one in King Space should be seeking immediate control or avoiding standard practices like safe words. On the other side of the coin, sometimes people will just take your actions, form an opinion around that, and then when you try to put the work and make yourself better, continue treating you like nothing has changed. What I'm going to say to that caffeinated blacksmith is that even if you do change, people do not owe you continued access to them. If you have demonstrated lack of change for long enough, it doesn't matter if you eventually change. Doesn't matter. You need to go on as a changed person and form new connections, because the understanding that those people have of you is the old you, and they're not going to try. They're not going to continue to expose themselves to it. So even if you do put in the work, you need to also respect that maybe the work was too late. Thank you, Kenarol. For my abuser, my pain and humiliation was not incidental. It was the point. Yes, exactly. So to some people, they do actually get a dopamine response to seeing you in pain. Tearing you down, making you feel less about yourself. It's actually also one of the reasons people cheat, or they'll cheat down. So you'll be like, oh my gosh, my partner cheated on me, and they cheated on me with somebody who's like not on my level. It's because you intimidate them, and they're going physically intimately down to somebody they feel more comfortable with and less intimidated by. They feel like it's somebody that they have better control over. Also, to an abuser, you don't really count, so why would they care about you? Disliking it as negative. Yeah. I've seen some narcissists be like, yeah, I saw my partner crying and thought it was manipulation. I didn't think it was serious. I thought their crying was them trying to manipulate me. So that is something you can definitely come across as well. I remember in one situation, I was crying. I was absolutely I was bawling at that point. And I was just like, why? Why are you treating me this? Like, how are you not having any reaction to this? And then, like, as I'm crying, I looked at him and he was smirking. And I was like, oh, fuck. You are getting a dopamine response to me being emotionally distressed. I need to go. Emotional manipulation's a family favorite. Same in mine. That hits. Oh no. As a sadist, I would like to distance our community from those that decide not to get consent when we try to pretend we're the same or not. No, consensual sadism versus... That's valid, she hath no name. You... Fuck forgiveness. You absolutely don't need to forgive people. And also, some people will change slightly to keep people around longer. So yeah, even if you do put in genuine work to change yourself, there are people who will use change as a manipulation tactic. It's breadcrumbing. That's the term. Change is a form of breadcrumbing to give you just a little bit to entice you along. So it can be very discouraging. But what I would say is if you do actually put in, part of putting in the work is acknowledging that the people around you do not have an obligation to accept your change. They do not have an obligation to trust your change. That's part of the maturity and the acceptance and the growth. It's the accountability of, before I changed, I may not have been a great person to be around, and therefore, yeah. Refusing to acknowledge that the effort's been put in is all different. Yeah. And what I'm going to say is they also do not have to acknowledge your effort. So in that case, like you if you put in that change, the change has to be very authentic. You need to change regardless of how it will be accepted. Because if you're changing with the expectation of having your change acknowledged, that's not healthy for either one of you. The change you're doing needs to be authentic self-actualization that happens regardless of external affirmation for it. Is forgiveness sometimes necessary for your own personal healing? I would say that's something that you figure out on your... It's going to look different for everybody. There are people in my life that I doubt I would ever forgive. They knew what they were doing. They did it on purpose. And I honestly am okay with them existing for the rest of their lives, knowing no matter what these people, the people in my life who have essentially compromised my safety on purpose for their own self-serving reasons, regardless of whatever smear campaign they put me through, regardless of whatever they told themselves, whatever cognitive dissonance they have, deep down, internally, they know. They fucking know. And they have to live with it, and they have to live with that brain that would do that to somebody. And to some degree, it's a relief. Because if you're sitting here being like, I don't understand. How could you treat me that way? Not understanding how someone could abuse you is a mercy. Because if you can understand how someone could abuse you, that means you have an abuser's brain. If you can't understand abuse, that's a mercy. That's a relief. It means you don't have their brain. If you can't understand it, you have a different brain. It's a good thing you can't understand it. Towards the they get something topic, and maybe it's just my experiences, feeling like I'm shrinking mentally as a personal flag because they've been taking or restraining something from me. I just don't usually notice until damage is well underway. It's relatable. That's relatable. Yeah, sometimes you'll notice them smile, and it's very unsettling. It's a constant struggle to be a better person than your immediate impulses. It's fucking hard. That's why we say we're in our healing era, not our healed era. Will never forgive my ex-spouse, no matter what they do. What they did is unforgivable. I don't owe them that. Nor religious peeps. Does forgiving them make me a better person? It doesn't. No. And to be honest, I've talked about this before, where I've said, like, essentially, there's people in my life who need to make it right with me. Some of them, I do expect for them to make it right with me, but they will not be forgiven. Like, the expectation is definitely there, and it's like, and you do need to make it right. However, you still need to live with it. You're going to have to still live with the gravity of who you are and what you did, because that is a core aspect of who you are. It's not going anywhere. Once you cross that line, like, there are certain people in my life who crossed lines of safety that can never be uncrossed. And most of it had to do with my body. Once people crossed certain lines with my body, they have to live with that forever until they die. There is no getting away from that. I expect them to make it right, but I also expect them to live with the reality of it. What if I have their brain, but it's in a jar? Where'd you get that? That's kind of what I wanted to ask about. I tried to start fresh with an ex. They came on strong about how sorry they were, red flag, and how much they wanted to try again, how they cherished my presence, red flag. But then after about a month, and when I started showing I was getting back into it, believe them, wanting it too, they ghosted me. Can't understand. Yeah, that's why. Because they came on strong. Can't understand why someone would abuse someone else. That's a mercy. Yeah, exactly. Oh, sad kitten. eBay? Penguin? No, I'm not surprised you have that. I'm not surprised you have that. No. Cut off contact with people because I've noticed myself getting too close to those impulses. I did not want to put them in danger. Well, I'm glad you had the self-awareness of that and started working on it. No, typically with exes who come back on very strong, I can't, of course, say I was not part of your relationship. I cannot speak to it, but I would guess that this is somebody who, when you were in a relationship with him, you didn't really know where you stood with them. Like, things may have started off pretty good, but over time you kept being like, where are we? Do you actually care about me or not? My guess is you did not have consistent affirmation in this relationship. I was like, damn, went from feeling so wanted, so paid attention to begging for even 2 messages in a day. There it is. Also, Belle, did you break up with them or did they break up with you? Would be my question. No comment. You can't just drop information about having a brain in a jar and then be like, no comment. No comment. Nothing. Because what you're looking at there is a manipulation tactic of, like, if somebody comes back, especially an ex, if they come back in really strong, they get you hooked again, and then they're breadcrumbing you, is what that is. And especially if you broke up with them, there's something called a reverse discard, where if you're describing somebody who has this pattern of pulling you in and then pulling way back and then breadcrumbing you so that they can watch you beg for them, fuck those people. Fuck those people who literally are so insecure with themselves that they need to do that to people. Fuck those people. But it is not uncommon to see somebody like that. If you break up with them, they'll wait. They'll hoover you back, get back in a relationship with you, and then ghost you or break up with you so that they can feel like they got power back. So it's called the reverse discard. They'll feel like you discarded them, so they want the opportunity to discard you, and then that makes their weird little brain feel better. The hospital morgue is surprisingly unguarded. You guys, stop stealing brains. Stop this. Why are you like this? Also, I'm going to need to hop off so I can make sure that I actually get out in time. Going so well, felt secure and out of nowhere, ghosted me, flat out, no response, nothing. 2 years later, came back, explained things, forgave him, thought it was going good. After about 2 months, became slower, less interaction, ghosted again, got dumped both times. Okay, so that's a different type of thing. Belle, this guy, or person, whoever they are, they think that you will forever be available to them. You've basically shown them that they can just come back whenever they want from you. You're supply. You're not important to this person. I know that might sound brutal. This person sees you as supply. You're not a person. You're a fulfilling thing that they can keep coming back to and discarding at their own whim. You are not being treated well. This person is a piece of shit. Situation, I was angry, hateful. Had to choose not to be like her. That's a big important thing. All right, you guys, I am going to hop off stream because I want to be able to make things on time. But lots of love to you. Thank you for a great chat period. Hopefully y'all learned something, and I will I'm not going to do a raid tonight. All the brain bird. Thank you, Kunmiz. Thank you guys very much. I will probably be back online on Monday. I'll do a Monday stream. So, like I said, lots of love to you all. No raid. I'm just gonna run. But we can, if you guys have more questions that you didn't get to this evening, we can run them on Monday. So, good night, everybody. Make sure you do good things for yourself to make your brain go brrr. Remember, you're not a burden, and redeem your hydrates. All right. Good night.